I'm often asked by employees in light of drug and alcohol issues, what are some of the best ways to deal with drug and alcohol issues as a supervisor in the workplace? Because you're really on the front lines, you're the one that's going to notice it first. So if you notice somebody that has alcohol on their breath, or their job performance is deteriorating, or they actually fail a random drug and alcohol test, you've got to follow certain procedures. In Canada, you cannot fire someone for being drug or alcohol dependent. It is a human rights issue, and it's classified as a disability. So what you have to be aware of is that you have to deal with the behavior, not the drug and alcohol issues. So if the behavior is deteriorating work performance, that's what you document, that's what you deal with as a supervisor. The first thing you need to do is get the employee, if they admit they have a problem and want treatment, into an employee assistance treatment plan. If they don't want treatment and deny having a problem and they failed a drug and alcohol test, that is grounds for dismissal, but make sure that you have a lawyer's advice, because as I mentioned, the landscape legally is changing day by day with this contentious and ever-growing issue. Once somebody's into an employee assistance plan, they'll be treated for their drug and alcohol addiction. And as a supervisor, you may request updates, but what they have between them and the psychologist is confidential, and you won't be privy to that. But the psychologist can tell you if they're attending their treatment sessions, and that is usually proof that the person means to end their addiction or wants to work on it. If they come back to the job, you deal with the performance. You document whether they're late, whether they're early. You document what their work performance is like. Are they with it? Do they do the work well? Are they getting along well with their coworkers? Have coworkers noticed anything? These are some of the things that you document. Now, usually what happens if someone has a drug and alcohol problem and gets treatment, it's an ongoing process. It's like being a diabetic. It has to be monitored, it's never cured. They may have relapses, but they're subject to the same rules as everybody else in terms of random drug tests for cause if they're working in a safety-sensitive position. A safety-sensitive position is defined as a position that could have real consequences if someone is impaired due to drug and alcohol use. For example, if they're a crane operator and they're under the influence, they could kill or maim or injure people. That is a safety-sensitive position, as is a truck driver. The rules in the US are different than in Canada, and those truck drivers, if you're dealing with a truck driver, that go to the US are subject to US regulations, not Canadian, just as a side note. Now, as a supervisor, you want to document performance and have a paper trail. So if someone is complying, it's vindication. It acts to show that they're a good employee, they're worth keeping, your employee assistance has worked well, and everything is copacetic. However, if they're not compliant, it acts as a trail and legal document that can lead to dismissal. And it has to be well documented and laid out. You cannot fire somebody for being drug and alcohol dependent, but you can fire them for poor job performance, and that needs to be documented, it needs to be written, and it needs to be monitored by you, the supervisor. Having an employee who is drug and alcohol dependent is more common than it used to be, particularly in certain industries like construction and utilities that have some of the highest rates of use amongst employees, amongst some of the tests conducted by our drug and alcohol agency, ADAC, in Alberta, for example. However, in any industry, this may be a concern. Remember, always document. Always practice due diligence as a supervisor to ensure that any employee is operating in an efficient, effective manner and is not a liability in terms of incidents and alertness to their coworkers and to you, the company.